Yeah, so we're a multi-generational farm. This property here, Gran and Pa bought in 1972. Difficult situation we find ourselves in.
Caught between a rock and a hard place.
That's right. We're a broadacre grains and prime land producing operation. We sow canola, wheat, barley, faba beans and vetch.
Out in Victoria's Western Wimmera, farmer Mark Merritt is preparing to seed his crops. But this season, there's a war.
I was not considering how impactful it would be to our business. I wasn't considering how impactful it could potentially be for our country. And then it wasn't until the fuel price started to jump that I thought, oh no, I should have ordered some fuel a few days ago.
And for many farmers around Australia, it comes at a make or break time for their crops.
The seeding is the start point of the year. If you don't sow your crops, you don't get any return at all.
The war is also driving up the cost of nitrogen fertiliser urea as shipments from the Gulf dwindle.
So last year we were paying, I think it was about $7.50 a tonne plus GST plus freight to farm for urea. And right now it's $1,435 plus GST plus freight to the farm.
Australia imports roughly 2/3 of its urea from the Gulf, where Iran's partial blockade of the Strait of Hormuz is choking supplies.
The Middle East, as you know, has abundant fossil fuel resources, and they created a huge fertilizer industry where they use fossil gas and other fuels to create ammonia, which then feeds into other fertilizer ingredients.
So at the moment, we're looking at urea that won't be delivered until late July, early August, which is on the later side of our operations requirements. But the problem that I have is that urea is obviously double or more in price than what it was last year.
Without enough fertiliser, crops will be smaller and of poorer quality.
I expect that our yield will be decreased this year. The quality also will potentially be less.
According to the National Farmers Federation, food prices could go up in a matter of weeks, starting with fresh fruit and veg as well as fresh meat.
So it's around the stuff that is produced in 6 weeks period, for example. A crop we plant and we harvest it within 6 weeks, or chickens we feed.
So how might the war in the Middle East affect how much we'll be paying at the checkout? A lack of supply is not the problem right now, as Australia produces enough food to feed 3 times our population. The answer goes back to the fuel shortage. Let's take a piece of fruit, for example. This is a simplified version of how fuel prices hit every part of the supply chain. At the farm, producers face increased costs from fuel to run machinery. Transporting the fruit for packaging and processing adds to the cost, along with any cold storage, as does transporting the fruit to the supermarket. All this contributes to the higher price we eventually pay.
Every kilojoule of food that is produced and moved off a farm in this country happens because of diesel. We, as a nation, we have become overly dependent upon diesel, and it has got us into the situation we are now in. Every step not only requires diesel, but those players need their fair share of the cut of what the consumer pays at the end. This is how prices go up and up and up and up through the supply chain. In the situation that we're in at the moment, there are no winners. There are absolutely no winners.
Last week, the government appointed cattle farmer and agriculture consultant Andrew Henderson to lead an assessment of Australia's national food supply chain. His interim report on diesel supplies is due later this month.
And the reality is Australia sits at the bottom of the world, out of the way of the major northern east-west trade flows. And so, for a food system and an agriculture sector that's fundamentally reliant on liquid fuel. That's a tough thing. It works really, really well in a stable global environment. But as the world's becoming more and more unstable, those supply chains are not necessarily fit for purpose.
Andrew Henderson says Australia was underprepared for the Iran war. For more than a decade, it's failed to meet the global benchmark of having 90 days of net oil imports. And he says Australia needs more diesel storage facilities to keep farms running.
The just-in-time model doesn't cut it in today's world. That's a reality. I don't think keeping 90 days of fuel is too expensive. It's whether we as a society, as a community, as a government, are prepared to pay the price that comes with having that type of redundancy available to us, that type of storage capacity. So if the cost of 90 days of fuel is $20 billion, then we need to understand who pays that price.
Japan has enough fuel to cover more than 200 days.
We need to meet the standard that's right for us. And I think that's something that is yet to be determined. What is the level of fuel? Is it 90 days? Is it 30? I think it's definitely got to be more than 30.
While the National Farmers Federation has welcomed the food supply assessment, it says the 1-month deadline is too far off.
We need to, have a plan in the next week or 10 days.
I'd say I totally agree. So where we can provide advice, we will. We can and will, absolutely. It's not going to wait necessarily for a 1-month arbitrary deadline.
Farmer Mark Merritt reckons he has enough fuel to get him through the seeding, but worries about the harvest later this year.
I don't know what we'll do if all of these shortages and everything continues on for a long time. I am hoping that it returns to normal, but that's probably unlikely.